Yo, so I'm gonna start this with a real quick promo. This video has taken a while to come out because I've been uploading a series called Settle It With a Jewel. If you're interested in watching something new, then please click on the top right to see what it's all about. Okay, thanks. Alright, so let's start with the stats about the Royal Giant. His health is surprisingly not as bad as people make it out to be. His HP per elixir is about 424, which is about as efficient as a Valkyrie at 414. This means he's not a massive tank like the Giant, but considering his time to the tower, it's quite good. He's only just slower than a Hog Rider to get his damage to the tower, but his health is more efficient and damage is more deadly, so it's balanced in that regard. Just like a Hog, he only needs 10 shots to take down a tower. Considering how easy it is to get to the tower, being ranged and whatnot, that's a very small amount. You're set as long as you can defend well after using him. If your defense is a little bit shoddy and you do lose a tower, that's not really an issue either. RG excels at 1-1 tied games because plopping him in the center means that he's almost instantly onto your opponent's crown tower and almost unstoppable. Once more, to compare with the Hog Rider, he's a great punish play. If your opponent invests anything 6 elixir above in the back, you throw this bad boy at the river and your opponent has minimal elixir left to actually deal with its quick time to the tower. Getting a 2500 health tank to the tower so quickly is basically guaranteed damage. The only troop that can stop him getting any hits would be a skeleton army, but obviously in a real game this is just going to be zapped away. This is correct though, not even 3 musketeers in one lane will prevent the RG from getting damage. Obviously, other troops do exist that counter him well though. P.E.K.K.A is an insane counter because it will only allow one shot from the Royal Giant, and you gain a full health P.E.K.K.A on offense now for losing just 1 elixir. Just as a side note, pre-planted zappies will deny him all damage, but this requires you to be literally psychic enough to place them before the RG drops. He will get damage from placing Zapsters reactionary though, so don't really be relying on these. His weakness as a building targeting troop is naturally buildings. With the nerf to his range, he now has to walk over to the buildings to fire, whilst facing arrows from the Princess Tower. They're not a complete counter though. The RG will free shot most common buildings due to his mad 60% damage buff. This will require you to place down extra DPS on top of the building, distracting him. I don't really see this as an issue though. The RG does cost 6 elixir and we see similar interactions with the Ice Golem all the time. Think of the building as a distracting Ice Golem, where you will need extra damage to stop some tanky units reaching your Princess Tower. So let's get into using the RG himself in games. His ideal usage is as a punish, due to him damaging the tower rather quickly after his placement. Against a heavy investment deck, RG gets the matchup as it's incredibly difficult to defend a 2500 HP tank almost instantly on your tower. This is exceptionally difficult to do whilst being low on elixir too. Against these investment decks, always keep your RG in hand to only be played once your opponent eventually invests in order to acquire maximum damage potential. His special ability in being a ranged tank means that he's the single best counter to siege decks. He can simply sit there and block the shots whilst damaging the building. He will also not enter the mortar's minimum range, so it's a complete counter there. There's no real reason to lose a siege matchup apart from your opponent outcycling to a siege building when your RG is out of hand. In my eyes, he struggles against decks that use versatile win conditions, e.g. Giant. It's essentially tank versus tank, but the Giant's health means that the RG usually loses this trade and will put you down in terms of elixir. You can't really punish with him as the Giant decks are happier to wait until they need to defend, opposed to actually playing the Giant in the back. If you let them counter push, you'll most likely lose the trade. You're lower on elixir because you've just spent on offense, and then will struggle to defend the Giant, meaning that it will get off more damage than you did in this exchange. A more even matchup in my eyes is against punish decks. If your opponent uses a Hog, you can defend for cheap and then invest the RG. Their only option is to build up their defense, which allows you some juicy spell value for an easy connection onto the tower. However, a good player won't do this, so most RG decks run a passive investment building, meaning you can place this before you invest in your RG. When you have this building up and invest an RG in the back, it's difficult for your opponent to punish because you have said building in the way. All of these matchups depend on how you play really, and I love Royal Giant. I'm gonna put some gameplay on now, but talk in depth about the Royal Giant strategy still, and talk about how his decks can be really cool due to his mechanics. For me, Royal Giant is an important card for the game. The matchups I just described are different to every other win conditions. Because of this, it causes different playstyles with the same deck to beat him. This makes every matchup more tactical, and also gives us another completely unique win condition. His shorter time to tower means that he's a great punish play, but his 6 cost also means that he can be used as an investment. I love the playstyle and decks that this card brings to life. Speaking of decks, a popular Royal Giant deck was featured on Clash Royale recently, and I wanted to talk about why RG sorta makes these weirdo cards work high on ladder. It included Furnace, Fire Spirits, Barbarian Barrel, and Lightning. All of these cards have been seen as sort of lackluster in most decks recently, but work really well in this one RG deck. I want to quickly get into how the RG's mechanics gives us a reason to use these cards. Let's start with Furnace. As I mentioned before, RG decks will run a building so they can safely invest without being punished against decks like Hog. Furnace works better over most spawners as an RG attack lives and dies rather quickly. This means that the burst damage of the spirits helps kill most defending units rather quickly. Fire spirits work for the same deal. They're a quick burst of damage that take out things like guards and minions alone. With the help of a zap, they also take out medium health units like musketeers and electro wizards. Barbarian Barrel doesn't really make too much sense at first until you see it played. With the RG staying around the river and having a lot of health, it means that the range on the Barbarian Barrel can spawn the Barbarian pretty much on the ranged unit defending. It also means that the Barbarian from the barrel will be tanked for by the RG and will be able to finish off a load of units that it damages whilst in the barrel. Take an E-Wiz, a log wouldn't kill it, but a barb from a barrel will be able to finish it off whilst being tanked for by the RG. This works with swarms too, as the barrel itself will kill the swarms, but can be used to obtain value whilst on offense like shown. And finally, Lightning. Lightning was never really bad in beatdown decks, but works exceptionally well in IG. It comes down to quick attacks again, and having that instant spell to keep your offensive troops alive means a bunch in Raw Giant. Overall, I'm a massive fan of RG in the game, and I personally have no idea why it's still a common card, as ladder is just completely ruined right now. I hope it stays similar to its current state, and I don't see it needing a change anytime soon. Once more, I'm always interested as to what you boys think, so I have a poll in the top right about Raw Giant. Hopefully I change some of your minds on this toxic old card, but apart from that boys, peace.